can we get full-time Bully Aspinall after this smear campaign? How are you going to be on the comeback?
Mate, when I come back, there is no more Mr. Nice Guy. Nice Tom. When it comes to MMA, he's gone.
From the moment Tom Aspinall stepped into the UFC, he became the heavyweight who embodied everything the company claimed to value: reliability, professionalism, explosive talent, and the willingness to save events when nobody else would. He took short-notice fights when the division was falling apart. He volunteered to be a backup fighter when champions disappeared. He accepted timelines that most contenders would refuse. And through every chaotic twist of the heavyweight division, he remained loyal, respectful, and ready. Yet somehow, after suffering one of the most dangerous and unpredictable injuries in MMA, an eye poke severe enough to potentially threaten his long-term vision, the man who had been nothing but a company soldier found himself mocked, dismissed, and publicly undermined by the very president he defended for years. Tom Aspinall didn't expect applause when the doctor pulled him from the Cyril Gane fight. But he also didn't expect to hear Dana White smirk through a press conference and claim Tom decided not to continue, a phrase that instantly ignited a wave of disrespect across the MMA world. Overnight, Tom became the target of a smear campaign built on ignorance, where fans who had never stepped inside a cage felt confident criticizing a man whose eye was literally failing to track properly, a man who had no choice but to protect his long-term career. And instead of defending him, instead of setting the record straight, instead of acknowledging the severity of the injury, Dana White, the president of the organization Tom helped carry during the division's chaos, added fuel to the fire. Tom Aspinall stayed silent for days, letting speculation spiral. But once the doctors confirmed the extent of the damage, once he understood that his vision was genuinely at risk, he finally broke his silence and fired back, not with cheap insults or petty jabs, but with the quiet fury of a man who has done everything right and received nothing but disrespect in return. And when Tom spoke, the MMA world listened. Because this wasn't just about an eye poke anymore. This was about years of loyalty being thrown aside the moment it became convenient. The truth is simple: Tom Aspinall has been one of the most dependable heavyweights the UFC has ever had, and the UFC rewarded that dependability by letting him walk into a firestorm alone. Even worse, Dana White's dismissive comments echoed a pattern that fighters have been calling out for nearly a decade.
Fight me. So you might as well just give me the title now. But unfortunately, the UFC, they wanted to believe that their GOAT was the man that they bigged them up to be. And they were wrong. And after working his whole life to become UFC heavyweight champion, this was the way it was announced.
John Jones called us last night and retired. John Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
All right, Dana, calm down. Don't get too excited. And that was in the middle of the night in some random ass UFC press conference. No ceremony, no celebration, no congratulations, Tom. We've got the best young fighter in the world. It was as if no one gave a fuck from the UFC. It was so bad. And I get Dana was pissed because he'd been made to look a fool by John Jones. But that was never Tom Aspinall's fault. Tom just wanted to fight the best guy he possibly could. And you'd think MMA fans would love that. There's a fighter who's trying to fight the best, wants to win the title, wants to defend the title and be an active heavyweight champion, something we've not had in God knows how long in the UFC. But no, because John Jones weirdly has a lot of fans who want to see him protected and not get his chin smashed to bits, they supported the guy who ran away from the fight and trashed Tom consistently. What a weird fan.
A pattern that includes fractured relationships with some of the biggest heavyweight names the sport has ever seen. Francis Ngannou, the most powerful puncher in MMA history, walked away from the UFC after years of tension and mistrust, accusing the organization of disrespecting champions, suppressing their value, and treating their loyalty as disposable. Dana White fired back by calling Francis a coward, a liar, and a terrible human being, escalating a feud that still hasn't cooled. Then came John Jones, a fighter Dana once praised as the greatest of all time, who returned to heavyweight with promises of a new era but immediately refused the one fight the entire world wanted: John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. For a full year, John Jones went silent, avoiding negotiations, avoiding updates, avoiding clarity, until the moment Tom Aspinall was compromised.
Himself to be missed very much, because the moment he left, he came right back. And by the way, I have no problem with all of this. We never had a problem with any of this. It was the fact that he was holding up the division, holding up the belt. Everyone said, please stick around as long as you want. Just give up the title so other people can realize their dreams. Fun fights, one-off fights, legacy fights, super fights, all day. You're bigger than the title. John Jones is bigger than the UFC heavyweight title. He's bigger than any title. There's only a couple of guys who are bigger than the title. John being one. If Tom would have beaten John, the fact that he beat John would be bigger than him becoming UFC heavyweight champion.
Situation looked like Curtis Blades came to beat Tom Aspinall up that night. Tom throws a kick and magically gets hurt. I would expect a fighter to at least attempt to stand back up or at least limp. And with Tom, he was just completely just out of the fight. And his last situation with Cyril Gane, he gets poked in the eye. Normally you see fighters that are doing this number, trying to get the doctor to look at it. And actually, initially the doctor's just like, he seems fine. Tom's like, no, I can't see. The guy wasn't trying to see. The guy didn't want to see. The eye that he was covering appeared to be the eye that actually didn't get penetrated. One eye finger goes all the way underneath the eyelid. The other eye, it was on top of the eyelid. And he ends up grabbing the eye where the finger was on top of the eyelid. So I don't even think Tom really knew which eye was supposed to be more compromised. He just knew that he had been fouled and it was his way out. So that alone shows me a little bit what's behind the facade.
Suddenly, the quietest man in the division became the loudest, mocking Tom, belittling him, and celebrating the chaos as if it was some kind of personal victory. Dana White, who once begged Jones to stay active, now openly distances himself from him, refusing to place him on the White House card and expressing frustration at Jones for walking away from the fight that would have defined the heavyweight division. And in the middle of all this tension, Francis gone, Jones unreliable, the division fragile, Tom Aspinall is the only heavyweight who consistently showed up, consistently said yes, and consistently represented the UFC the way champions are supposed to. So when he finally responded to Dana White, when he finally called out the disrespect, it struck deeper than any normal fighter-promoter conflict. Because Tom isn't a headache. He isn't a problem. He isn't someone who plays politics or creates chaos or uses the media to manipulate negotiations. Tom Aspinall is the UFC heavyweight who does everything right and still gets treated like he's disposable. And the fans noticed, the analysts noticed, even fighters who normally avoid drama began speaking out, because the pattern is undeniable. Dana White has an increasingly fractured relationship with the heavyweights he needs the most. And Tom Aspinall has now joined a list that includes Francis Ngannou and John Jones.
He poked my eye and then he's like immediately, there was no like...
He never tried to look. It was rag on the eye immediately.
Dude, I would have been the silliest looking cat on national TV just...
Trying. He didn't try. He didn't try.
Same thing with Curtis Blades. When he hurt his knee, there was no limping, there was no trying to get up. It was just like immediately...
Yep.
Burn my village. I can't go on. Like,
he doesn't have the dog in him. Yeah, that killer be killed.
Immediately quits.
Yeah.
When he got tapped out with an ankle lock, there was no trying to fight his hands. There were no trying. He immediately quit.
You see the pattern of it.
Immediately.
Yeah. And I noticed the profile pic change, and then you had some on your horse too, similar.
Yeah.
What's with that?
I'm just having fun.
You having fun with the eye patches?
I'm having fun with it. Yeah. Okay. It's like he had at it with me. He had a long time coming at me, so it's to keep the fans engaged.
Of course.
And it's just to keep things fun.
The best part about it is, like, what did Tom actually say about John? Like he never really played into, I guess he held up like a little duck and all that stuff, the horror. But yeah, the glazing was just...
He doesn't have that
Curtis
dog
Blades,
in him, bro.
The knee injury. He hit the air quotes for, I think it was a torn MCL, a torn meniscus, ACL damage, surgery, year recovery. He's just like
blown out.
Didn't even try to limp around. He just
didn't even give it the old college try.
Just wouldn't even give it a try. He doesn't have that dog in him. Just doesn't have that dog.
And then the thing of like,
no, the other guy said that. The other guy said he didn't have that. He saw the patterns.
Don't forget.
The thing about not trying to open the eye, like, wasn't Aspinall being killed for the fact that he opened his eye because he was trying to go on? Everyone keeps bringing up this thing of him saying, I can't see. Yeah, okay, that was his reaction, but he didn't tap out. He didn't do anyway. Not to like get into this back and forth because it's completely stupid, but it's like you've never seen anyone talk so much shit about someone that he refused to fight, and not just refused to fight, but generational money. Like, no one has ever been offered $30 million, to the best of our knowledge. Not even Conor up front. This is pre-pay-per-view points, and you said no. And now you've gone on this tour shitting on the guy, calling him a quitter, saying that he doesn't have that dog in him, saying that he looks for the way out. The Curtis Blades. By the way, the Curtis Blades fight happened already. The ankle lock that you're talking about happened already. The poke happened after you said no, but like, if there were patterns, why didn't you fight the guy?
A list of fighters who feel disrespected, not because they asked for special treatment, but because their loyalty was taken advantage of. Tom's response wasn't emotional. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't theatrical. It was honest. He laid out exactly what happened with his eye, exactly why he couldn't continue, exactly how severe the damage was, and exactly why Dana's comments were not only inaccurate but downright harmful. And by doing so, Tom exposed the uncomfortable truth the UFC has been trying to avoid for years. This isn't just about fighter pay or matchmaking disputes. This is about respect, and heavyweight champions, especially the ones carrying the division on their backs, are starting to run out of patience. Tom Aspinall's message to Dana White wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a line drawn in the sand, a declaration that even the most loyal company men have limits, and that there comes a point where silence stops being strength and becomes surrender. Tom wasn't willing to surrender anymore. His response revealed the emotional toll of watching fans, fighters, and even his own boss twist the narrative into something ugly and inaccurate, especially when he had spent his entire career showing up for the UFC at times when nobody else would. His eye injury wasn't an excuse. It wasn't a strategy, and it certainly wasn't a decision. It was a medical emergency that could have left him permanently damaged. And the fact that Dana White trivialized that moment exposed a disconnect that the MMA world has been sensing for years.
About Dana White saying Tom didn't continue.
Tom didn't want to continue in the fight, so.
And then also, who gives it to eye pokes?
Who gives it?
Well, listen, I didn't continue. I'll tell you why I didn't continue. Because I'm not a dummy. Like, I'm not going to go out there and fight one of the best strikers in the world if I can't see. I know, as an MMA fighter, look, things are going to happen in the fight that compromise you. Go back and watch my fight with Arlovski. The end of the first round.
This eye's still a little bit blurry. The other part of this eye is blurry. But the main thing that's bothering me at the minute is double vision.
When he's looking up and in, the left eye is going up and in extremely well. The right eye is kind of stopping. You see how the right eye is just not as high up as the left, and that's a restriction. So the eye wants to go and he wants to track it, but the more I do this, the more he's going to start aching in that upper inner aspect. And what he's going to do is, if he's in a fight situation, he's not going to be dealing with it. He doesn't want the ache in the eye, and he also doesn't want to have double. So what he's going to do is tilt his head. So that's on that side. If you look at the left, which should be matching it, so you're looking across, up, 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 as much as you can. And you can see how, again, with the right eye, it's up and out, but the left eye is just not able to go as extremely up as possible.
When I got poked in the eye, obviously, and then people were like, his eye wasn't even red. Does your eye always go red when there's something wrong, or is that?
You can absolutely lose your vision without having a painful red eye. So you don't need a red eye to have blurred vision at all. So no.
Yeah. So how long till I can train properly, spar?
It's a long road ahead, but the prognosis is guarded at the moment. I would recommend that you wouldn't fight until your double vision's resolved.
Tom Aspinall went to the doctors, and the doctors has confirmed that he's got some issues with his eyeballs. He's got some soft tissue damage to the eyeballs, and that will happen when a 6'6" Frenchman sticks both of his fingers knuckle deep into your eyeballs, okay? So that's not surprising. But what is surprising is that he has something called Brown syndrome, which basically is where the eyes aren't moving in tandem with one another. So therefore, the eyes, which are basically cameras, right, for your brain, and in case you don't know, they're seeing different images. And when you see different images, you see double, or maybe sometimes the brain cuts out one of the images so that it doesn't get confusing and you don't get headaches and stuff like that. And then, of course, when you're only seeing through one eye.
Tom's frustration didn't come from ego. It came from betrayal, because this is the same fighter who stepped in as a backup multiple times, who risked his body on short notice for the sake of the promotion, who headlined cards without hesitation, and who never once used the media to negotiate or manipulate conversations. When Jon Jones vanished for a year, Tom stayed active. When injuries destroyed the heavyweight division, Tom stayed ready. When the UFC needed someone to save cards, Tom said yes. And yet, when Tom needed the UFC to simply acknowledge the truth about his injury, they gave him mockery instead. And the irony is overwhelming, because every heavyweight controversy of the last decade comes back to one recurring theme: Dana White's inability to maintain strong, stable relationships with the biggest men in the sport. Francis Ngannou, the face of heavyweight dominance, walked away despite being champion because he felt unheard, undervalued, and disrespected. Jon Jones, the greatest talent the sport has ever seen, returned to heavyweight only to refuse the one fight that mattered, then began attacking Tom Aspinall publicly the moment Tom suffered an injury. And now Tom himself, the man who could have been the UFC's most reliable champion in years, is voicing the same frustration that drove Francis away in the first place and that turned Jon into a wild card. Fans can sense when a division is broken. Analysts can sense when a narrative is collapsing. And right now, the heavyweight division isn't defined by power, dominance, or rivalry. It's defined by conflict, miscommunication, and fractured trust. Tom Aspinall's injury should have been the moment the UFC united behind him, because he is the last heavyweight whose loyalty the company can still depend on.
It's true or false?
Well,
he's talking so much smack about Tom.
He doesn't have the money to not. He doesn't have the money to walk away. He doesn't have a choice. I mean, that's
why did he walk away to begin with? He was offered $30 million.
Yeah.
He asked for 30, and he got that.
Yeah, no,
and now he's apologizing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. He
miscalculated that one.
Yeah, he did that thing with Nate, and they got $300,000, and it took 30 days, and so all of a sudden he's like, "Well, if I can make $300,000 in 30 days, and I can do this every 30 days."
Sure.
No, I mean, sometimes explaining very basic things it can be tough, but. Will he fight again? Yes, I believe so. And I think there's some real legs. Look, if you're the UFC, the last thing you want to do is empower a dude that you can't count on. And by the way, it ties back into my theory to whoever's keeping him out of the rankings. Like there's something afoot there.
What are you left feeling after the fight?
Well, look, if you were sidelined from doing your job for like 15 months, not allowed to do anything, you train your ass off for 6 months for a fight, then to get double eye pokes, be left with no vision for nearly 6 weeks because of an illegal move. How do you think I feel? I'm not feeling fantastic, am I?
Instead, they pushed him away. And that push didn't come in the form of a contract dispute or a matchmaking argument. It came in the form of a careless sentence. He decided not to continue. A sentence that rewrote the truth and positioned Tom as weak at the exact moment he needed support the most. What makes the situation even more volatile is Tom's recent medical update. His injury isn't minor irritation. It isn't swelling. It isn't something he can simply fight through. He has a disorder affecting the way his eyes track together, something that creates long-term risk, depth perception problems, migraines, and potential permanent vision damage. It's the kind of injury that ends careers if handled recklessly. And when Tom explained it, when he calmly laid out the details, the entire MMA world realized the full weight of what he had been dealing with. The smear campaign suddenly looked embarrassing. Jon Jones's mockery suddenly looked cruel, and Dana White's comments suddenly looked reckless. This is why Tom's response hit so hard. He wasn't emotional, he was disappointed. He wasn't attacking, he was correcting. And he wasn't trying to spark a feud, he was demanding respect. And the fans rallied behind him instantly. Comment sections flooded with apologies. Analysts reversed their previous takes. And even fighters who rarely comment on heavyweight drama began acknowledging that Tom had been unfairly treated. The quiet giant finally spoke, and when he did, people realized how badly he had been wronged. All of this ties into a broader stigma hovering over Dana White's leadership in recent years. Fighters have repeatedly accused him of favoritism, double standards, and a tendency to undermine athletes publicly instead of standing by them privately. Whether it was Francis being called a coward for seeking fair pay, Jon Jones being shamed for contract negotiations, or now Tom Aspinall being dismissed after a serious injury, the pattern cannot be ignored.
Supporters think that because I think that he should box because it's more money, that affected him in the fight. I've never heard as much as people saying what I say affects Tom in a fight. I say loads of things to loads of people. People who are around me all the time know that. Boxers are around me all the time. It's just because of the money. And it's the back to, if your son was a fighter, would you sooner fight for a ton of money or not a ton of money? It's a no-brainer, but people still have.
The relationship between Dana White and his heavyweight stars has become increasingly strained. And Tom's response adds another chapter to a growing narrative that the UFC's most powerful division is being mishandled. Tom Aspinall didn't ask for a feud. He didn't ask for drama. All he asked for was acknowledgement of the truth, acknowledgement of his loyalty, acknowledgement of the reality of his injury. And when he didn't get it, he finally corrected the record himself. Whether Dana White chooses to repair this relationship or continue the pattern that drove Francis Ngannou away and fractured his connection with Jon Jones will shape the future of the heavyweight division. But one thing is absolutely certain, Tom Aspinall is done being quiet. He's done absorbing criticism he doesn't deserve. He's done letting the UFC tell his story for him. For the first time, Tom Aspinall has fired back, and the entire MMA world is listening. All from Sports Power.
a narrative of what a fight is.
Bully Aspinall has finally come out. Tom Aspinall is showing he doesn't care about the UFC and the UFC fans who have been giving him shit for a long time.
He's going at the fans, he's going at Dana White, and he's going at Cyril Gane.
Let's go over what he said. Cyril Gane is a cheater. He goes into fights looking to eye poke, back of the head shots. He even said John Jones, before he fought Cyril Gane, called him a cheater as well. Then he says he's pissed off with Dana White. And he's also said he's got Brown syndrome, which is a pretty serious eye condition, which may involve surgery. He's not training right now. He just wants to get his eyes back to 100%.
And you know what? It's all warranted. Dana White, very unnecessary comments after that fight.
You know, he's very much been the nice guy, the polite Englishman, the gentleman. Now, he doesn't care. The gloves are off. And this Tom Aspinall is going to sell fights. And dare I say, he's going to knock out Cyril Gane. He's coming in